Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. So I'm coming to you today. We are actually going to be doing two studies today. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get night 13 out yesterday. So this will be our 13th night of Advent and our 14th night of Advent. We're going to do the 13th this morning, and then I will do the 14th night, which will also be a new candle later this evening. Um, so I do apologize to y'all for not getting that out yesterday, but it was pretty crazy yesterday. We were volunteering for the Santa shop that we do at the Fountain Activities Center. It's like several churches, including mine, that sponsor it, and we get all the stuff for it. And then we all volunteer and go and help these families shop and that sort of thing. It was a really great time. Uh, and then after that, almost immediately, we had a concert to go to, so there really wasn't a whole lot of time to be able to record the video, and then we didn't get back till about 9:30, 10 o'clock last night. Um, so, but we're gonna go ahead and do the 13th night now, and then, like I said, we'll do the other one later on this evening. So let's go ahead and light our candles that we do have for now. So we light. For those of you that are new to these videos, we are doing the study out of an Advent devotional, Unwrapping the Names of Jesus. So this is our book that we're using. And we're going to light the first candle for Hope. So Hope was our first candle from when we started, which was on the 30th of November. And Hope is, the definition of hope is wanting or seeking something, wanting something, even praying for it, that sort of thing, but have no true guarantee of whether it's going to happen or not. But for us, as Christ believers and Christians, and being born again, our hope is in Jesus. And the great thing about that is that we finally have that guarantee, because Jesus has said it is finished, it is done. He has already won that battle. So for us to put our hope in him is to have that certainty that all will be well. We may not know exactly how, we may not know exactly what we have to do, or what we may go through, those kind of things, those aren't for sure. But what is for sure is at the end we will be with our Heavenly Father. So that's the hope that we rely on, is the hope in Jesus and hope in action, by waiting on him, serving him as we wait, and knowing that hope, that he's coming again. So we will light this candle in honor of that, of hope. And then we have the second one that we will light, which for this one was kind of a twofer, if you will. We had the books candle, which was preparation, and it's talking about preparing your heart for Jesus, for the story he has for us at this time of year, his birth, the blessings that it brings, and the hope, and the ultimate sacrifice that he gives us. So preparation to receive him, to receive his story, his testimony, and to receive him into our hearts, so that we may be saved. My church did peace, and I like doing these two together because I think they go very well hand in hand. Because in order for us to have true peace, not the world's version of peace, this fleeting thing that one thing comes about and it messes it all up, that's the world's peace. Our peace is eternal, and it is through Jesus, and our peace is through him and what we know of his promise, and what he's promised that will happen. So we get our peace from Jesus, through Jesus. So in order to get that peace, our hearts have to be prepared for him to come in. So they go very well hand in hand. So I really liked that they were together. So we light this for preparation, for the heart, and for peace. Oh, guys, if I can get this thing lit, give me 1 second. It's going to be difficult. There we go. So for preparation and for peace. Ooh, got a little wax on my finger. So we have hope, preparation, and peace. And then we will be adding a new one tonight. So now that we have those lit, get a sip of coffee here. And we will get into our book for the 13th day. Let's see here. And so this one, since we are doing, for those that haven't seen any of these videos, maybe this is your first one, the way we've been doing this is each Sunday is when we light a new candle. So that's technically today. So that will be what we're doing. So the Saturday before, which would have been yesterday that I normally put this out, we do, let's see, what do we call it? We do a week 2 adventure. So like, it's basically taking that principle that we did for that week and giving us, like little tasks, and different things that we can do to live that in action. So like the hope in action, so this will be preparation in action, and we will even tie in peace as well. But it's giving us different opportunities, different ideas on how to live out that principle, that candle that we learned throughout the week. So that's what this particular one will be. And normally the other days will be different names that we're unwrapping of Jesus. So that's the Saturday and Sundays are the only 2 days that are a little different. So just so y'all kind of know how we do this. But so week 2's adventure activities, preparation and action, as well as peace. Like I said, we'll throw that one in here. The activities below range from fun-filled family activities to service-oriented projects that you can do with your children or by yourself. Pick one or more activities from the suggested list below to put your preparation into action this week. So this should be fun because I haven't actually had a chance to proofread this, so we're going to read it together. And we'll see if maybe there's some that I've already done like I did last week, or some that have given me an idea for more stuff to do, and we'll kind of talk about each one and see what that looks like. So, the first one they have on here is make snowflakes. By cutting out patterns on simple white paper, one on one side, write out prayer requests from your family, your community, or around the world. On the other side, write out a Bible verse that speaks to each request. Then hang them around your living room, pausing to pray as you take each one up, and continuing to pray whenever you walk through your winter wonderland. That is a really cool one. I love that. It's a really fun one that you could do with your kids, which they would love. It's been years since I've made a snowflake. I haven't even thought about that. But excuse me, that is definitely one of my fond memories. I used to love doing that, especially like we did it a lot in school and with different like winter projects and stuff. And they're so fun to do. So that that's a really cool one for you and your kids to do. And what a cool way to interpret prayer, or not interpret, integrate prayer, excuse me. But just to integrate it into your daily lives, because I know sometimes as parents, you know, we kind of struggle a little bit, or at least I know I do, to make sure that they're getting, you know, that exposure every day, especially in a younger age, because their attention span's not quite there yet, you know what I mean? So it's like, it can be hard to get their attention, and then it can also be frustrating sometimes because it's like, you know, they'll get distracted in the middle of whatever you're trying to talk to them about or something like that, or they don't take it as seriously. And it's because they're younger, so, you know, they don't understand yet. So I definitely love that, because it's a good, easy way. He loves arts and crafts, you know, so that's a fun way to get them engaged, something to give them to do activity-wise, and then to be able to incorporate with it, okay, so we're making these snowflakes, you know, for this person, or, you know, mom or dad or grandma or Uncle Joe or whatever, you know, or even some of their friends at school, you know, you can ask them and be like, hey, you have you have friends in your class, who do you think needs prayer, or do you know of anybody that needs prayer? Have they said something to you, you know, it's a good way to do the community part too. Maybe somebody at church that they know, just encourage them to talk about it, and see if there's anybody they can think of that might need it and might need prayer, might need something, specific to pray about. And that way, we're encouraging them to think, we're encouraging them to be intentional with their thoughts, and with their prayers, to who they go to, what they're for, that sort of thing. So I really do. I like that activity a lot. I might have to try to see if we can figure something out about that. That would be cool. And then hanging them up around, and that's how you pray. And then as you see them, it reminds you to pray each day. So that's really awesome. I love that. Now the second one is act out the nativity story, either as a play, a musical, or a puppet show. If you have little ones, you could practice it several times over the course of Advent, and then stage an event for the grandparents and extended family. Even if you don't have children at home, consider acting out the story anyway. Little details come alive when we place ourselves in the scene. That's an interesting one. I can see where it'd be a little bit more challenging to do. Guys, I am so sorry. My throat is not wanting to clear this morning. Goodness. Anyway, but I could see where, it could be a little more difficult to do this one, especially the acting out part. I could see where it could be a little more difficult to do it just straight up acting it out. I think it is a great idea for like the kids, if you wanted to do something for the grandparents, or like a whole little family play thing, that would be cool. But it can be difficult to do that, especially to get everybody, organized on it and everything. So, but I can think of several ways that we could still kind of incorporate this. So like, if you have a nativity, you could always use it, like one of the glass ones. You wouldn't be able to let the kids do it, but you could do it for the kids, like do a show for the kids with them. You could do something like that. Or even if you have like maybe one that's made out of wood, or something like that, then you could do those, and the kids could help with those. So there's ways to do that. I would also say go to a nativity. There's a lot of living nativities, especially around here. Maybe not so much in other places, I'm not sure, but around here we have plenty of living nativities, and it's an experience in itself. So I would encourage you to do that anyway. But I think that would be a good fill-in for this challenge, because most of the living nativities that people do, it's very they try to be as true as they can to the time. So like I know there's one in Taylor's, I cannot remember the name of the church right now, but there's a really big church right there as you get in the beginning of Taylor's, and they do it every year, and they actually do like a true whole living nativity experience. So like you go in, they kind of take you on this little tour that leads up to Jesus's birth, and then by the end of it, you're actually in the town of Bethlehem, and you get to walk around, and they have like woodworkers and little smithies, and all this stuff that you can check out, and kind of see and get a feel for what life was like back then. And as you walk through the town, then once you get, you eventually get to the manger itself, and they do a whole reenactment of that too. So that's a really cool idea, to kind of incorporate with this, and especially since it's talking about, really paying attention to the details and the little things you might miss. That would be a great way to do that. Do it with the kids, and let them kind of see and everything like that. So that's a great idea for that. So I'm trying to think. Let's see, and what else could you do? I like the puppets idea. That's a really cute one. If you could get puppets or make them, that would be a really great idea. Yeah. So I think there's a bunch of different little options that you could do there. It doesn't necessarily have to be a straight-on play. I think that one can intimidate some people when they read that, because like I said, that's a lot of time, and it can take a lot of time. And if you can pull it together, that's great. Because like I said, I think grandparents, that do a play for the family, they would love that. But I think it's there's other ways to do it too that maybe wouldn't be as complicated. Oh, you could do something kind of like what they do, I know, with Easter for the resurrection. Um, we used to do these little eggs to incorporate the eggs for Easter, but inside each one would be a piece that represented a part of the resurrection story. So, there would be the bread and wine, just representing his different miracles leading up. And then there was like the pieces of silver to represent Judas's betrayal, the nails, a cross, a stone for rolling it away. So it's like each piece in the egg helped you tell the story. You could do something like that with the nativity too. Maybe not the egg part, but you could do like little pieces that kind of represent, and maybe put them in a present box, like to represent the wise men and the gifts they gave, that sort of thing. So yeah, there's all kinds of cool little ways that you could interpret that. So don't stick to the major details that they give you. Don't think you have to completely adhere to that. There are plenty of ways to kind of work in and do workarounds if that's something you really want to try to do. So I would encourage you, if that's one that kind of stood out to you, there's plenty of ways. So don't be intimidated. All right. The next one is sing gospel-centered Christmas carols that center your heart and attention on Jesus. Find an old hymnal you can thumb through, or use the Advent playlist I've compiled for you at unwrappingthenames.com. So real quick, for those that didn't see the Hope in Action, or the Hope in Action one that we did the previous week, there is a source that they give you in here, and it is that website. So I'm going to read it one more time for you. It's unwrappingthenamesofjesus.com. No spaces, all lowercase. And she has a whole slew of resources for you on there. So if you do ever need any ideas or anything like that, she has that website there for that purpose. Like for this one, it's saying you can go get the carol list. And I know she had printouts on there as well for activity sheets and stuff. And there's a couple other things too. So it's a good resource to remember. But I really like this one because I love music. I cannot sing to save my life, but I still love music. So that one's really awesome, and that one I do actually do daily. So because my radio station in my car stays on his radio. There's a very rare occasion where Jax might want to listen to a CD or something and it gets changed, but 9 times out of 10 it is on his radio. And that's why, because I think it's really important to be intentional about what you're intaking, and how it affects you and your mood and all of that. And I just know if I leave my radio on his radio, because I tell you right now, if I'm being completely transparent, one of the hardest places I have of maintaining my Christ-like self and keeping him forefront, it's in that car, because I have some road rage. So I will go ahead and admit that now. I have issues, especially with some of the craziness, because in my head that's a 2-ton death machine out there, so I'm extra vigilant. I'm probably a little hyper vigilant sometimes when I drive, so it aggravates me when other people aren't. So I get road rage, and so that his radio really helps with that, and it also just helps you, to uplift you from anything that's going on too. So if you had a hard meeting, or maybe you had an argument with your spouse, anything, and then you go get in and turn that music on, it really helps you to recenter, refocus. And a lot of the times they even have talking sessions on there as well as the music, what is the one called? Hope in the Family, I think, or something like that. It's a really great one, and I love listening to it because they do a really great speaking points as far as different family values and different family issues that might come up. They talk about it, and they kind of help you figure out how to address it and that sort of thing. So I really like, and the guest speakers are usually focus on the family. That's what it's called. There we go. Focus on the family. But the ones that they have there to talk are for specifically there for whatever the topic may be at the time. And so it's really good as well. So you get to have a preacher time, teaching time, and you also get the music, and you get to sing, and they're doing a great mix of, classic Christmas carols, as well as like the Away in a Manger and Silent Night, those sort of things. Plus they'll throw in, a Jingle Bells every now and then, and that sort of thing to keep it fun for the kids. So it's a great resource. I highly encourage you to listen to his radio. They have a couple of different handles. I think I do 89.3 is the one I listen to. It comes in the best around here, but they have a couple different handle options if one isn't coming through for you as well. So that would be a great resource for that. I like the idea of the hymnal. That's really cool. It's definitely an oldie, but my husband actually enjoys like the old hymnals and stuff like that, more so than the newer, more modern, you know, bands and stuff like that. So he prefers more of the old school hymnal chorus thing. So that's a really smart idea. And I know we do still have churches around here that do the hymnals. They do the more traditional, which is a really great way to kind of check out and do those songs. And it's a good reminder. It brings up so many happy memories from childhood, as well as just there's a power in those old hymns. It's a very moving thing. So I love that. And like I said, that's one I participate in every day because I have to, because it just helps. It helps me keep myself centered. So, but the next one is memorize a Christmas verse, or a verse that features a name of Jesus that has stood out to you this week. Write it out on a piece of paper and carry it with you, or find made for you memory cards at unwrappingthenames.com. So there's another resource she has. It's called made for you memory cards, so you can like go print those out off of that website to help you with this particular one. So it says to memorize a Christmas verse, or a verse that features the name of Jesus that has stood out to you this week. So that's a really good one. I actually have done that one as well, with the Lord of Lords, or Yahweh. I did that for our women's night of worship. And that's like the verse that I chose. It was in Ephesians, and it was, literally this man crying out as Yahweh passed over. He said, Yahweh, Yahweh, you are the most faithful and loving Yahweh. And it just like, so normally if you read that in a Bible, it would say Lord, but as we talked about, the original, as far as being as close as you can to the original text, it would say Yahweh. But I do encourage you to do that, because you would be surprised. And it doesn't even have to be a name from this week. Let's not even put that in there. Any name that stands out to you that you've ever heard, whether it be through the 2 weeks that we've done. Maybe you were at our women's family night and got to hear our women's worship night and got to hear one that maybe stood out to you. Or maybe there's one that has always stood out to you. Kind of like me with Good Shepherd. That has always been the name that most closely hits my heart, is Good Shepherd. So, I would encourage you, no matter when you've heard it, where you've heard it, if there is a name that stands out to you, go look it up. Go find the different, verses that coincide with it and see which one stands out to you, because I promise you that name is sticking out to you for a reason. God's trying to show you something and tell you something. So if you do the research, you'll find that message. And it's a great one. So I highly encourage you to do that one. The next one is gift handmade nativity ornaments. You could draw a little nativity scene or a star, or write out a name of Jesus. Or if you're more artistic, draw a lion, a lamb, a shepherd, or a vine. You could make an entire set of coordinating ornaments based on the names of Jesus, or download coloring ornaments at unwrappingthenames.com. So that is another resource she has for you. She has a lot of printout stuff on that website. So you can print out the ornaments and then turn them into ornaments. And there's a couple ways you could do that. You could paint them and do like a laminate on them. You could probably even do some type of hodgepodge and adhere them to like wood if you wanted to do like a carving one, or anything like that. So there's a lot of ways to do it. Or you can make your own, like she said, you could paint one. it just, there's all kinds of fun ways to do that. So I like that. I know we gave out ornaments actually at our uh, women's thing, and the one I grabbed was Good Shepherd. But it was just a little wooden ornament, and it had like the name burnt into it. So that's really cool. Um, but I like that. I like the different ideas. And like it said, you could do like a nativity one. You could do each piece from the nativity, and maybe even like have a coordinating verse to go with it as you do it with your kids, that sort of thing. It would be a good way to revisit the nativity and kind of go back over it, and see where each part is in that story and what the verse correlates with it. I do like the idea of doing the ones with the names as well. If you wanted to pick out, some of the more significant ones, or if you wanted to do, all the ones in this book, or however you want to do it, which there are many, many names of Jesus, so I don't think you would get them all necessarily. You could if you wanted, if you had enough time to, I suppose. But there's a lot of them, so I would definitely encourage you to pick ones that stand out to you and kind of help you, and maybe you can do it based off of helping you speak to your kids about it and that sort of thing. So that's a really cute one. I like that. And then the last one, oh no, we have two more. Excuse me. So write a letter to Jesus, responding to what you've learned about him this week. Thank him for who he is, confess any sins that have accumulated in your life, and ask him to give you a deeper love and understanding of him. Then surrender any area of your life that is hurting this Christmas season and ask him to fill you with his joy. That's a really good one. I like that a lot. I write a lot, so that speaks to me a lot because it helps me to get my thoughts out when I write down. So I do some journaling. I don't keep up with anything like daily necessarily, but I do some journaling. I definitely write down anytime I'm doing like any Bible studies. I always have, even if it's just like a little notebook with, quickly wrote sentences or, a couple words or whatever. I know what they mean. And it helps me to kind of remember key points, especially if I want to go back later and dig a little deeper. Maybe I didn't have time to right then and there when I heard it, so I would write it down and go dig deeper. Um, you know, uh, and definitely always write down any Bible verses I hear because I have a hard time remembering the actual addresses of the verses. There's probably several verses that I could literally quote to you but not tell you where it's at in the Bible. Unfortunately, I'm not the best with the addresses, so I always write them down so that I can find them. So stuff like that. So that one really speaks to me. I like that, and it's kind of like writing a prayer too, right? Because I've done a prayer journal before, and those are really significant, and they're very intimate, and they're very close to your heart because it's you being raw and honest with God and praying for whatever it may be. It may be for somebody, something for yourself, something He needs to work on in you. All of those things. So I like the idea of writing Jesus himself a letter, and like it says, respond to what you've learned about him this week. So you get to talk to him about that. You can thank him for thank him for who he is, and then you can confess any sins that you have, that maybe have been building up that you haven't really acknowledged, whatever. And then I love the part, ask him to give you a deeper love and understanding of him, because that is always the goal, right? Is to dig deeper into the Lord and go further with him, getting to know him, all of that. So that is an awesome part. And then it says, surrender any area of your life that is hurting this Christmas season and ask him to fill you with his joy. And I think that's one of the biggest things, and I think that's why this sticks out to me so much, because I actually, like I said at the beginning of this video, I volunteered to help with the Santa shop that we do for the kids, and I was a part of the prayer station. So that's a big part for me in this, is praying for that healing this Christmas season, because I got to meet a lot of families, and a lot of them need prayer and are hurting through things. So that really touches me, and I think that we could all use that, at this time of year, because this is supposed to be the happiest time, the joy, the joyous time for family, love, all of those things. But unfortunately, just because it's supposed to be doesn't mean it always is. And it doesn't mean that the world stops just because it's Christmas. It doesn't. Life doesn't stop. It keeps going, and it doesn't care. Um, that this is supposed to be the time that you're with your family and you're having, all this fun and all of these things. That life doesn't care about that, and they will quickly take someone from you, lose somebody, be it through death or separation, your finances. There's so many things in the world that people are hurting from, and we don't know. We will never know unless we talk to them. So that part of the letter really sticks out to me, because that is what we need to do, is go to him. And if we're hurting, if we're anything is stop, because that's the thing with these pains, and with us being so involved in those hurts, it takes away from us being able to connect with God. So that is the only way to be able to connect with him through it, is to go to him and pray that he moves through that grief, pray that he moves through that pain, those trials, so that we can feel him with us, and so that we can follow him out, so that he can guide us to where we need to be. He can guide us to what we were supposed to learn through it, and so that he can ultimately get us out of it as well. Because it will end, I promise you. No matter what season you're going through, how hard it is, there is an end. It's just a matter of us following God to that end and not getting stuck. So I really I like that one a lot. That was awesome. And then our last one is play Traveling Wise Men with your nativity set. Set up the scene as you normally would, but instead of placing the wise men with the rest of the figurines, place them in the farthest corner of the house. Each day, move them closer and closer to the nativity set until they finally reach the baby Jesus. I like that one a lot. That's kind of like a nativity version of Elf on a Shelf. That's pretty cool. And you could even make it kind of like that if you wanted to do something like that instead of Elf on a Shelf, or in conjunction with it, either or. But if you prefer more Christ-centered things to be able to do, that would be a good way to incorporate that. You could do move them as you need to during the night, and get your kids to find them the next day. And maybe even you could incorporate a verse of some type of them traveling, because it mentions them traveling, Herod stopping them, all those things. So that would be a really fun one. I like that. That's very cool. So that's a great idea for a new nativity thing. I think we might have to start that for our next Christmas tradition. That's not a bad one at all. All right, so that was all of our activities, guys. And you don't feel like you're failing if you don't do one or more of these, okay? I'm just giving you these to give you a way to kind of prepare yourselves for, well, that is what this one is. It's preparation in action, so that fits perfectly. But that is why I give them to you, to kind of help practice these candles that we learn, and to be able to kind of practice them in your daily life. So that way it helps bring them home for you, and helps you to have a little bit better understanding and be able to dig a little bit deeper, and to have some fun stuff to do with your family too, because that's always important. If you have a family, if you have kids, or if it's just you and your husband, or you and your grandparents, or whatever it is, whoever your family is, it's good to have ways to be able to incorporate them and bring in these lessons with them, so that they can learn with you. A lot of the times that's half the battle, is people just don't want to do it by themselves. So that's why I give you these. Please take any of them that you liked and participate in them, or like I said, if you don't have time, don't feel like you failed, so that's okay too. It just depends on where you're at. But I hope this has helped somebody. I hope somebody gets to do these activities, and please, if you do, share them. Share them with others, or you just want to message me and tell me about them, or comment on one of these videos. I would love to hear about it, and I'm sure others would too. So I do encourage you to share if you do one as well. But that's all I have for y'all for right now. And like I said, the resource for any of these printouts or anything that you might want is the Unwrapping the Names of Jesus. Or, I'm sorry, unwrappingthenames.com. No spaces, all lowercase. So, unwrappingthenames.com. If you do want to use any of that and get any of those resources. So, that's what those are. And like I said, that's all I have for y'all for right now. I will be back this evening to do our next candle with y'all. And the next candle is Joy. So that's going to be a really fun one. And I hope everybody is having a wonderful morning. And I will see y'all later this evening. So wish you a Merry Christmas. Bye.